I thought my birthday dinner would be unforgettable, but not like this. My sister stood up to give a toast and ended it by announcing she was pregnant with my husband's baby. I still remember the exact sound the wine glass made when it hit the edge of the table, that soft clink right before my world shattered. We were at my birthday dinner, a small gathering, close friends, family dim lighting cake on the way. Everyone was full and smiling, the kind of dinner where you feel safe, loved, whole. Then she stood up. My sister. She stood up, cleared her throat, and said with a hand resting gently on her stomach, "I'm pregnant." People froze. I smiled at first reflexively because I thought she was finally moving on from her awful breakup. Then she looked directly at me, not around the table, not at our parents, at me. And she said it like it was nothing. "I'm pregnant with your husband's baby." Silence. For a second, it felt like the whole restaurant stopped breathing. Chairs didn't creak, forks didn't clatter. Even the background music seemed to vanish. The air was sucked right out of the room. Then came the noise gasps, someone whispering, "What?" My mom stood up. My dad just stared at his plate. My best friend blinked at me, unsure if it was a joke. And me? I couldn't move, couldn't speak, because I saw his face, my husband's face, and that told me everything I needed to know. He didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. Let me back up, because none of this makes sense unless you understand what my life looked like before that night. I'd been married to James for 6.5 years. We weren't flashy or loud, but we were steady, dependable. He was the kind of guy who brought home flowers just because, who rubbed my back when I was stressed, who knew how I liked my coffee and made it every morning before I even woke up. I honestly thought we had one of those quiet, solid marriages, the kind people envy because it looks boring from the outside, but feels safe on the inside. We had plans, a house. We were trying for a baby. I was so sure. Then came her, my younger sister, Lila. She'd just gone through a terrible breakup with her long-term boyfriend, 5 years together, and it ended in chaos. Cheating, lies, the whole thing. She was devastated, broken, even. And because we're family, and because I've always been the fixer, I told her to come stay with us for a while. "Just a few weeks," I said, "until you get back on your feet." She moved in with nothing but a suitcase and a tear-streaked face. I gave her my old room, stocked the bathroom with her favorite products, even lent her some of my clothes when she didn't feel like going out. I helped her get a job at a local boutique, drove her to interviews, sat up with her at night when she couldn't sleep. I told her she was beautiful, even when she didn't believe it. I told her she was strong, even when she felt worthless, because that's what sisters do, right? You lift them up. You protect them. But somewhere in that house, behind closed doors, while I was pouring myself into her healing, she was pouring herself into my husband. And I didn't see it. I didn't see a damn thing. I'd walk into the living room and see them laughing over a movie. I thought, how sweet, they're getting along. I thought it would help her trust again, seeing that good men did exist. God, I was so blind. I invited the wolf into my home, handed her my life, and didn't even notice when she started sinking her teeth in. Looking back now, the signs were there. They weren't loud, weren't obvious. That's the thing about betrayal, it rarely kicks down the door. It seeps in, slow and quiet, like water under the floorboards. You don't notice the damage until it's everywhere. I remember one night, maybe a month before everything exploded. I walked into the kitchen for water around midnight. The lights were dim, and there they were, James and Layla, talking in hushed voices over a half-empty bottle of wine. Her hair was loose, she was barefoot, and they stopped talking the second they saw me. I laughed it off, said, "Late-night therapy session," with a smile. James said she couldn't sleep, and he was just keeping her company. Lila nodded, almost too eagerly. Another time, I caught a weird look pass between them. Just a glance, quick, but sharp. Like something unsaid had just passed between them. I couldn't even describe it if I tried, but it was the kind of look people share when there's a secret. They had their own jokes, too. Things I wasn't part of. I'd walk into the room, and they'd stop laughing, like I'd interrupted something. James would say it was nothing, just teasing. Lila would change the subject so fast it gave me whiplash. And yet I never questioned it. Not really. Because she's my sister. Because he's my husband. Because the idea of them being anything more than that, it felt insane. Like some twisted, ugly thought I refused to let take root. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was tired. That stress makes you see ghosts where there are none. But deep down, I felt it. That subtle shifting under the surface. And I ignored it. It was supposed to be a celebration, my 32nd birthday. Just a cozy dinner at my favorite restaurant. My parents, a few close friends, my husband, and Lila. The table was full of candles, laughter, the smell of roasted garlic, and red wine. James was quiet that night. Not his usual kind of quiet. He wasn't scrolling on his phone or distracted. He was tense. His eyes kept flicking toward Lila and then toward me, like he was waiting for something. She, on the other hand, was glowing. Hair perfect. Nails done. Wearing the dress I loaned her last month, my dress. She kept smiling across the table like she was the star of some invisible spotlight. I thought maybe she was finally healing. Maybe she had met someone new. Halfway through the meal, she stood up, tapped her fork gently against her glass, said she had something to share. Everyone turned to her, expecting some light-hearted story or maybe a promotion at work. She gave this breathy, emotional little speech, said she never expected to find love again, that life had a funny way of surprising you, that happiness sometimes shows up where you least expect it. I remember leaning forward, smiling with her, happy for her, supportive, as always. Then she said it. "We're having a baby." I blinked, waited for the punchline, for someone to laugh, for someone to say, "Just kidding." No one did. Then she placed her hand gently on her belly, and then on his shoulder. James didn't move, didn't look at me, didn't pull away. The table was silent. My friend Claire actually gasped out loud. My mother whispered, "What?" And all I could hear above everything was the sound of my own heartbeat, roaring in my ears like a war drum. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Because I was sitting across from the two people I trusted most in the world, watching them announce their affair like it was some kind of miracle. Like they hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my life. I don't remember standing up. One second, I was sitting there, trying to breathe, and the next, my chair scraped against the floor so loudly it made everyone jump. "What the hell did you just say?" I didn't recognize my own voice. Shaky, cracked, somewhere between a scream and a sob. My hands were trembling. My heart wasn't beating, it was slamming. Layla had the audacity to look surprised. I didn't want you to find out like this," she said, as if any version of this was going to be okay. I looked at James. "Tell me this isn't true." But he didn't. He didn't even blink. Just sat there, staring down at his empty plate like it had answers. So I said it again. Louder, "Tell me this isn't true." He finally looked up, eyes glassy, face pale, and said, "I didn't mean for it to happen." That sentence, that coward sentence, not, "I'm sorry," not, "It's a mistake." Just that pathetic line people use when they get caught doing something that took months of planning. I laughed, loud, bitter. "You didn't mean to screw my sister." He opened his mouth again, probably to spill more garbage, but I wasn't listening anymore. People were getting up. My mom was crying. My dad was furious, but silent. A couple of friends stood frozen with their hands over their mouths, unsure whether to stay or run. I turned to Lila. "You lived under my roof. You wore my clothes. You cried on my shoulder over your breakup while you were sneaking into my husband's bed." She tried to speak. I cut her off. "Shut up, don't you dare say a word." Someone reached for me, maybe to comfort me or calm me down, but I pulled away. I didn't want comfort. I wanted the whole damn table to burn. I grabbed my bag, tossed the napkin on the table. "You two deserve each other, and you're both dead to me." Then I walked out before the tears could take over. I didn't sleep that night. I went home alone our home and packed his things in trash bags. Every shirt, every watch, every stupid little souvenir from vacations that clearly meant more to me than to him. The next morning, I texted them both. Your stuff is on the lawn. Don't come near me again. Within hours, the call started. My mother was sobbing on the phone. My aunt said she was shocked but hoped I could find it in my heart to forgive. And then came the others, the ones who tried to blame me. She was living with you, maybe James felt neglected. You and James hadn't had a baby yet. Maybe he felt stuck. Lila was vulnerable, and you were always so strong. Maybe he connected with that. Like I caused this. Like being stable made me guilty of being too convenient to betray. But then there were the others, my cousin, my best friend, Claire, who were furious for me, who called Lila disgusting, who told me James always seemed just a little too attentive to her, who reminded me that I didn't deserve any of this. And then came the worst blow. It wasn't a one-night thing. It wasn't a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness. They'd been sleeping together for months. While I was taking late work calls in the bedroom, while I was buying groceries for 3, while I was scheduling fertility appointments, I found messages, photos, emails, plans, private jokes, goddamn nicknames. She didn't just sleep with my husband. She took my life apart one lie at a time and smiled in my face while doing it. I didn't leave the house for 3 days, didn't shower, didn't eat anything that wasn't crackers or coffee. My phone buzzed every 10 minutes, calls I ignored, messages I couldn't read. I just sat on the living room floor, surrounded by the wreckage of my own life. It wasn't just that my husband cheated. It wasn't just that he got someone else pregnant. It was who he did it with. My sister. The girl I taught how to braid hair. The one I defended in school when kids were mean. The one I held when she cried over her first heartbreak. The one I trusted with my whole heart because I believed blood meant loyalty. Turns out, blood doesn't mean shit when selfishness runs deeper. Every time I blinked, I saw her standing at that dinner table, all doe-eyed and glowing, acting like she wasn't dropping a bomb on my life. My birthday used to be my favorite day, not because of the gifts, but because James always made it special. Breakfast in bed, handwritten cards, a long hug in the morning that said, "You matter." Now my birthday is the anniversary of the day my reality collapsed. I cried until I couldn't see, until my face was swollen and my throat hurt. Then I got angry, the kind of rage that simmers beneath the skin, quiet, cold, focused. I started Googling lawyers. I called a therapist, left a message that just said, "My husband got my sister pregnant. I need help not losing my mind." I looked up support groups, infidelity forums, divorce articles, because if this was going to destroy me, I wanted it to destroy me on my terms, not while I sat on the floor letting them win. Divorce proceedings started 2 weeks later. James suddenly wanted to talk things through, said we didn't need lawyers, that we could split things amicably, which meant let him keep the house, avoid paying alimony, and pretend the baby in my sister's belly wasn't part of the betrayal. I said no. He said I was being emotional. And that's when I knew he wasn't sorry. Not really. He wanted comfort, not consequences. His lawyer sent over paperwork that suggested he keep the car and the house. I laughed out loud and wrote one word in red marker across the top. No. Meanwhile, Lila started texting me. Paragraphs. Long messages about how love is messy and unexpected. How she never meant to fall for him. How she just felt seen for the first time in years. She actually said the words, "This baby is a blessing." Like she didn't blow up my marriage with it. Like her uterus had wiped her conscience clean. Some of my family tried to stay neutral. You know the type, the "why can't we just move forward" crowd. But others picked sides. My father stopped talking to Lila entirely. My aunt unfollowed me on social media and told my mom I was overreacting. Lines were drawn. Invites stopped, including both of us. There were whispers. People saying things like, well, they're having a child together now, as if a pregnancy justified treason. But I kept moving. Filed every document. Showed up for every meeting. Logged every insult, every lie, Every attempt they made to make me the villain. I was done shrinking to keep the peace. Let them live in their delusion. I was burning the whole bridge behind me, and I wasn't looking back. I moved out 6 weeks after the dinner. It wasn't fast. Nothing about divorce is. But once the paperwork was filed, I found a small apartment across town. 1 bedroom. Light-filled, quiet. It smelled like paint and possibility. I left the shared memories behind, sold the bed we used to sleep in, threw away every framed photo from our wedding, took only what was mine, not just legally, but spiritually. Some family members called me dramatic, said, "She's still your sister," like that word meant anything anymore. I blocked them. I stopped apologizing for protecting myself, got a new job, something that challenged me, something that reminded me I was capable, valuable, needed, outside of being someone's wife or someone's emotional crutch. I made new friends, people who didn't know James, didn't know Lila, didn't see me as the girl whose sister stole her husband, just saw me. I started going to therapy regularly, not just emergency sessions. I worked through the guilt, the shame, the self blame, dug into old wounds I didn't even realize were still bleeding. And one night at 2 a.m., I opened a blank account online. No name, no face, just words. I wrote my story, all of it. And people responded, hundreds, then thousands, women, men, strangers who had lived through betrayal in every shape and form. They didn't just comment, they understood. For the first time, I didn't feel insane. I wasn't alone. And that saved me. Not because their pain made mine smaller, but because it gave my pain context. It gave it shape. And eventually, gave it meaning. What they did to me didn't disappear, but it no longer defined me. Almost exactly 1 year to the day, I got a message. It was from Lila. She wrote, "I'm sorry. Please, can we talk?" Apparently, James had left her too. Didn't want to be a father after all. Said the baby wasn't planned, that he needed space, that he wasn't ready to settle. I read every word of her message slowly. Not because I was considering answering, but because I wanted to fully feel how predictable it all was. She thought stealing him meant winning. But you can't win someone who was already willing to betray. You just inherit the consequences. She asked for forgiveness, said she missed me, said she didn't know who else to turn to, and I sat there, staring at the blinking cursor, letting the silence between us stretch a little longer. Then I closed the app. No response, no a closure. She doesn't get that. This isn't a redemption story for her. It's mine. They stole everything from me, my home, my trust, my sense of safety. But I still came out stronger. Not softer, not gentler. Stronger, alone, but not broken. And finally, free.